Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Eating Peace this week. I am off to be on staff at the School for the Work of Byron Katie right now and gone for 10 days. And I may just pop in to connect with you and share with you, and I also might not. I'll be right in there daily, being very involved, very intensely connected to exactly what's happening hour by hour with all the people that come to share the work and learn the work and train in the work and question their stressful thinking. One person asked me recently, with respect to this eating peace, eating issues, eating wars, and eating battles that we're looking at so closely, that's so meaningful to me, about fasting. And fasting is a very interesting experience, and of course, something done for health purposes, mental health purpose, and physical health purposes in many cultures, many traditions, many health modalities, spiritual reasons for as long as humanity has perhaps been on planet Earth, for all I know. Very, very ancient reasons for fasting. So fasting in itself can be something incredibly important and powerful. What I find important about fasting is discovering my own thoughts and beliefs about fasting, my own experience of fasting, and questioning and noticing what is actually stressful for me. So, if you're somebody who's had disordered thinking, disordered eating, off balance, really off balance, just like I have, you might have had the idea that fasting should be done at all costs, that it is always healthy, that going without, reducing your meals, reducing food, being able to be powerful enough and in charge and in control of food and eating and not succumbing to the biological desire to eat is always the best thing. That's the right thing to do. That's how we know we're in control, and that's how we have ultimate power. We know what that's like when it's stressful. It's called anorexia. It's called diet thinking and diet orientation. It's restricting. It's not feeling comfortable with what you actually want and applying force and willpower to making sure you don't follow this urge to feed yourself. So it all depends on the energy that you're approaching fasting with. So I always held fasting up on a great high pedestal as soon as I began to have disordered thinking around food and eating. Of course, that took several years to build. I was a child learning and seeing certain things, hearing words about not being greedy, not wanting too much, those terrible people who are so selfish, who want too much. And that might be with food or money or desires or things or sexuality or anything. It's got a little bit of a religious feel to it. And this can occur in many religions. But it's social and cultural, different things build up stronger depending on maybe where you are in the world and what your family background is. But you hear it. And I began to really revere fasting and going without and those who could succeed in that model. And I would hear things about how people who broke through, who stole things or wanted to grab or ate a second or third portion of something were gluttonous and greedy and wrong. So it's easy to see how I innocently began to understand the world and food and eating in it, and how it was better to go without. In fact, that's even quite kind of a stellar, gold star, number one, something to strive for. So we just watch the energy with that, because, of course, when the biological urge became so strong, because there I was always thinking that less food is better, and fasting and skipping meals was like fantastic. It would lead to thinness, it led to self-control, led to feeling powerful and overcoming a biological urge. So if I wanted to feel in charge and in control and, like good fighting power, I would hold that up. And then my body and my mind and my spirit and my emotional life would break apart, of course, break through that incredible desire to restrict all the time or hold that up on a pedestal. And I would just get very, very, very hungry. There would be an urge that is built into my mind and body and everything about it. It's even pleasurable to eat. And that would come on so strong that, of course, I would eat and eat and eat. And at the beginning of breaking a fast, you could say, I might not have thought of it as a fast at the time, but at the beginning of breaking that, it would feel like such an incredible relief. I'd feel just so settled and then very quickly turn into eating too much. Binge eating, overeating, stuffing it in, because part of my mind would have that this is a very temporary window where all hell has broken loose and all chaos is, we're going insane here, right? Because the pedestal has crashed over. I am not, actually the pedestal is still there. Fasting is still way up high on the pedestal, and I am falling short. I'm screwing it up. I'm failing. So if you find that you have extreme black and white thinking about the experience of fasting and going without food, and it isn't somehow supporting something deeply, like that you're drinking from something very deep through fasting, then it's very important to question what it is that you're thinking and believing. The energy needs to shift and change, or you will always be flipping back and forth between being good and fasting and being bad and not fasting. And this is an inherent condition of disordered eating, disordered thinking, black and white thinking, and being in control or totally out of control, having power or being in chaos. Feeling at peace, kind of, when you're fasting, not really peaceful, or at total war with yourself. So, how do we work with fasting then if we know that for centuries it is something of a health benefit, it's something of a spiritual benefit, it's in different religious traditions and backgrounds and various forms of dietary life, no matter where you are in the world and whatever it is that you eat. There's fasting offered up as a possibility, sometimes as a cleaning out or a cleansing condition. And this can be also incredibly powerful. And what I noticed the first time I ever went on a normal, regular fast that was guided and supported, where a group is doing it together, that was very different from my old diet mentality. Of course, this is always good, like just go without all the time in my daily life. First time I was doing it on a more measured, organized plan to even receive the emotional support that I might want, I discovered that I was terrified of hunger. And I mean terrified. And I was shocked because I thought, I have been the conqueror of not eating, of my appetite, for years. There was a time when I basically was fasting for the most part for 2 years. It was called anorexia. It was completely unhealthy. Experienced bulimia-rexia, so very, very thin, and also binging and vomiting. And then bulimia with a regular body weight, where I'm eating normally, and then also having these occasions where I'm eating wildly. My brain was always telling me that I should be eating less, I should be restricting, and the best way to approach life or to be in the world and be in this body is to be going without. So I was absolutely shocked to discover that my a core belief, my core belief about that hunger that would come on in an organized fast where safety was clear and we were drinking water. I was absolutely beside myself. I could hardly even think. I was so terrified of the hunger. And I realized that I had scared myself over and over and over again with every diet I ever went on and every day, which was frequent, that I thought I shouldn't have eaten something. It is best not to eat. I have my foods that are the good foods and the bad foods. And if I have a bite of the bad foods, I'm a bad person. I should fast from them. No pleasure should ever be gone after. It's very interesting. It was very an extreme tightness, a sense of warlike energy. And I had I felt heartbroken by how often I had scared myself. And I was watching that happen as I was in this only 2-day fast thinking, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to go insane. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Basically, there's a body biological function that many people actually have talked about, whether they've ever had any kind of disordered eating thinking, where they feel like they might die if they don't get more food, if they're on a fast. And we can laugh about it and chuckle because we really are okay. If you have water and no food for several days, you're okay. You do get weak and shaky. It is true that something happens, but you don't always know exactly when or how, and it seems to come and go, and there's a strange and interesting flow, and you might feel a little colder, but you can put on a sweater and drink hot tea, hot water. You can sleep. I don't know. It's quite amazing, everything that seems to still move and be completely okay while fasting. And I would... what I have mostly recommended to people who have had real anxiety and OCD when it comes to eating. So that's what it's like, isn't it? It's like OCD about food, anxiety about food and eating and your body and your weight and your image. They're kind of crashing and opposing each other. Like, so what is OCD? No offense meant towards somebody who's actually suffering from that mental diagnosis, but it's a compulsive disorder to think about and order what it is that you think needs to be ordered, like food and eating, and exactly what the weight of your body should be at all times. And it's highly uncomfortable. You have to be cautious and on alert and aware, and it's like you're a sentry at the gate guarding something that's highly valuable at all times. It's very tense, and you can hardly relax when you have that kind of orientation. So to question that, to recognize a fear of hunger and a fear of fullness, both of those, and not putting one so high above the other that emptiness is better than fullness, which is what the diet mentality offers up. To be able to question that story and sit in that story. So really holding, who would I be without this belief? How would I see the world? How would I feel this body? What would be my relationship or the energy like between me and this food, or this lack of food, or this sensation that I'm calling hunger? What is that like for me if I don't have that incredible story on it of black and white thinking? What if I know that this is supportive somehow for my inner spirit? For me, I love actually dropping all stories of striving to make the health so freaking perfect. Perfection, trying to make the health perfect and finding praise for that, or striving or reaching, or a number one, or competition somehow within myself for having a perfect body based on appearance or the condition of the health or whatever, that is hard. That is something that feels like it's on the outside of the inner spirit. It feels like it's something I'm striving for, or that like there's not unconditional acceptance with that kind of idea. It's I'm only accepting myself under the conditions that I reach this goal, and I will never measure up unless I get there. It's just watching the balance with that. So you can have incredible joy with building up your health and trusting yourself and trusting hunger and allowing yourself to eat or not eat. Even allowing is a funny word because that sounds more like there's rules and regulations that you need to follow. Because who would you be without the story that fasting is better and stuffing yourself is awful, and that I'm getting somewhere else besides where I am here, and I'm just letting myself experience the fullness of having a human body, being in this experience, being with hunger, being with fullness, and not feeling shame, anger, irritation, frustration, and stress about it. Who would I be without that story? That's an amazing question. That's the fourth question in the work of Byron Katie. Who would you be without this story? So it's to see and study why you think you want to be fasting. I know there's a lot of books and ideas and recommendations for people to do intermittent fasting and various forms of fasting. And if you find that your spirit is drawn and you experience joy and you are thinking less about food and you're thinking less about where your body ought to be, wonderful. That's what peace is called. Balance. I would suggest that if you find yourself thinking more about food and more about your body and more about when you get to stop the fast and you become kind of obsessive about it, that there may be anxiety within and you may be pushing yourself in a way that isn't supportive of your own inner peace and your own inner spirit. I found that for a long time, what was right for me is to not maneuver and plan and manage anything when it comes to my food and eating. That managing and controlling and planning out and putting things in the calendar and all that kind of stuff, weighing, measuring, data, control was something as a function of the mind. The mind was thrilled about all that. And I found that to just step away from that and let the full body be here doing what it does and being with it in whatever way is kindness, loving kindness for every sensation, for every experience. And that was the way, actually, surprisingly, through the whole black and white thinking, like just coming back to center and not flipping to one side or the other. No right or wrong. So that's the most wonderful, easiest way to work with your ideas about whether or not you should fast or what fasting is, or whatever, is just seeing what works for you, what brings you peace, what has an energy that is of kindness, positive attention, caring. If you were treating yourself like you're a little baby child, that is, you love dearly, and something feels really right for you in your health and your inner spirit to fast, then it is right for you. And if something feels like it flips into perfectionism, right and wrong, black and white thinking, avoidance, or pressure, then let's maybe relax with that. So give yourself the right medicine. You will know what it is. Write down your thoughts one by one, and then take them through the 4 questions. Who would you be without your story? Turn them around and see what works for you. It can be amazing to discover the support here for you outside of your mind. All right. Let me know how it goes.